Hello, everyone, and welcome to this Pie Chat Live. My name's Nick Cuthbert, and I am the Director of Insight at the Pie. And for the next 30 minutes, we're going to be talking about the return of the PIEoneer Awards for 2024. And we're going to be giving some tips to our audience about what a winning entry looks like. Marcus, can you hear us? We were having some technical issues behind the scene. Yes, I'm getting the thumbs up.
Yes, hi.
Hey.
Okay, so if for people who don't know, the PIEoneer Awards are like the Oscars of the international education industry. It's a big, prestigious, glamorous event, hence my bow ties come out, in London every year. And we really celebrate the achievements and the innovation that's happening in the sector. And we get lots and lots of submissions and lots of people wanting to be shortlisted for awards, and then we get lots and lots of people attending, and the coverage is huge. So what we thought we'd do is get a panel together here of previous winners and previous judges, so that we could give people the best advice about this stage, which is entering the awards themselves. Okay, so I'm joined today by Dr. Jewel Wynn, who is Executive Director for International Programs at Tennessee State University. And Jewel, you were a judge last year, that's right?
That is correct.
Okay, perfect. And we've got Leanne Lineker, who is CEO and founder of Lead 50/50, and Lila in Liverpool, who is also a winner and also an organizer of her own awards, and we'll come to that a bit later.
Thanks, Nick.
And we have Marcus DeWitt, who is CEO and founder of Blue Ivy Coaching, who is a serial winner. He's actually Blue Ivy have won, Marcus, they've won twice and been shortlisted or highly commended once before. So if anybody knows how to write a winning entry, it's you.
I appreciate it. Hi, everybody.
Hi.
Okay, so just a little bit of housekeeping. This is a live event, so you can use the comment section, tell us where you're from, tell us what you're interested in. If you want to ask the panel a formal question, you can do so by using the question mark tab, and other people can upvote your question as well if it's a popular question, and we'll get to those shortly. Okay, so the awards themselves, they are open now. The awards take place in September. I'm looking at my notes here. The 13th of September, Friday, the 13th of September is the awards ceremony where we announce the winners. But all the way here, 9 months before, we're at this stage where we are opening entries for the awards, and entries close on the 28th of March. It's free to enter, and there are 20 categories. Including this year, we have a new category, which is excellence in data and insight. So there are literally awards for every part of the sector. And we have a very prestigious award, which is Pioneer of the Year, the main award, which is kind of the biggest innovation that we see. So, Leanne, I'm going to come to you first here, because at the moment, it feels like, there's a lot of negative news. It's that time of year. If you're in the kind of northern hemisphere winter, everything's a little bit negative. But entering an awards like this, tell us about what it was like to win, but also what it meant for your team, and the kind of culture around celebrating what you do.
Yeah, it was amazing to win. We were actually weren't even going to apply because you mentioned that it's like the Oscars of international education. It's a really big, prestigious event. People from all over the world enter, and we thought we were too little, basically, to be in with a chance at all. And everyone's busy, and thought, oh, it's never going to happen. We'll give this one a miss. And I'm so glad we made the decision to apply. And I think it just shows the quality of the judging, if I might say, because it's obviously not just something where they've gone on the big names being recognised. you know, it's easy to say, well, of this school or this organisation. The judges must have really paid attention to what was written and been applied for. So I'm really, really glad we did, because it boosted team morale no end. I mean, in what some respects, the pandemic seems like a distant memory, but if you rewind to September, I think we were all still recovering from that. We'd had our first massive summer after coming back from the pandemic, so everyone's in a slight state of shock as well. Everyone's worked so hard over the summer with the big junior summer camps. So to have the recognition in the form of a PIEoneer Award, which, you know, shows that the work of the teams being acknowledged, was amazing. I'm really, really glad we did it.
I think for our eagle-eyed viewers, they can probably see the award is actually on the shelf behind you, isn't it? Pride of place.
I mean, we might be doing a Marcus next year and have more than one.
We will.
Yeah, I mean, for me, reporting on the industry, you know, a lot of times we do get criticized about focusing on some of the negative issues and things like that. But this platform, the awards themselves, is just pure positivity. It's just about the best things that we do and the great things that we see and all of the efforts and collaboration that we see in the industry. Marcus, I'll come to you then. This serial win. You won, let's get this right, Agency of the Year 2020, Student Counselling Organisation of the Year 2021. Then there is a rule, I have to say, that you can't win 3 years in a row. Then you came back in 2023 and you were highly commended in International Student Recruitment Organisation of the Year. So people are tuning into this because, you know, they want tips. Maybe they've entered before and weren't successfully shortlisted. What do you think the secret is to the way you've written these entries, the way you've applied yourself here?
Well, obviously, I can't give away the secret, Nick.
That's why you're on.
Obviously, I can't do that. No, yeah, thank you. Honestly, it's been, you know, when I was chatting with Nick before today's session, the words are wonderful. It's obviously we as all educators and counselors do hard work with students and families in the trenches of advising, and to have that work recognized is fantastic. Ultimately, what's brought us back to the PIE year after year is ultimately the community. PIE is not obviously just an award ceremony or even the news source, but it's really become a community of people that we've really enjoyed meeting over several conferences. And so I think what motivates us to continue to participate is not simply continue to collect recognition, but to continue to participate in this community. And when I had a chance to go to the PIE Live in Boston last fall, seeing a lot of people in person, and so I think that's really what motivates us to be here today and to continue to participate in this community. In terms of responding to your question, our approach has been to try to go beyond to just speak to the facts and figures or achievements and accomplishments, and really try to present some sort of coherent vision, or even just to be very frank about the challenges that counselors or recruiters face, and to kind of just show our thought process and how we try to go about counseling in our own way. So I haven't read any other entries, so I'm not sure how to compare it. But when we sit down to work on these entries every year, it's a great exercise for us, almost to kind of put down our manifesto. It's an exercise of not just for us. It's not a resume. You know, we love to talk about if we've opened a new office or the number of students we're counseling, but I think ultimately it's an opportunity for us to reflect on what are the challenges that counselors and recruiters and universities face in this industry, and how are we from our corner of the world in Latin America trying to navigate and improve. And so I'd say to start, that's been our approach.
And well, we'll get into that in a minute, but also your corner of the industry, Latin America. I mean, a lot of people here I can see really tuning in from all over the world. I'm seeing Memphis, Tennessee here, Berlin, Boston, Warsaw. it's quite inspirational for them to hear you, that you were in Mexico and you entered, and how did you think you would get that far? Did you think you would win? Did you think that people would be interested in your part of the industry?
Yeah, certainly not. Obviously, this is an industry where China and India reign supreme and have kind of the biggest volumes, and also just on a company size and on enterprise value, the competitors, the people that we go up against, are the giants and the titans of industry. And so for us, it was a nice underdog story. I think kind of that Latin America, that Mexico. Being also a new company, we formed 2 or 3 years before the first PIE ceremony that we participated in. So for us, it was really meaningful to really kind of open doors and open lines of communication. Also, just learn a lot more about the industry. I think ever since we kind of joined the PIE community, it's been fantastic for networking. It's been fantastic for us to really understand this very complex and rapidly changing industry that we all participate in.
Fantastic. I can see Claire Gossage is putting some tips in the chat here, trying to keep me on track. So, Jewel, you were a judge last year, and when we were chatting about this before, you were trying to recall the process of judging and so on, and you were saying that actually I'm so involved in committees and associations, and obviously your own professional work, and then the judging process, that you were kind of struggling to remember the specifics about what this process looked like. And it really occurred to me that is a really fundamental thing, that there's a huge time pressure for you to process these award submissions, read them, give them careful consideration. And so I guess that plays in then to how people should be writing them, thinking about the kind of volume that a judge has to look at.
Exactly, Nick. And that is a very, very valuable point. And I began to remember some of the submissions, and I had to catch myself and pace myself because I got so caught up in what I was reading. The submissions were really good, but then when I began to read others, I'm like, oh, that person should have done that. So one of the things that I found was very helpful from the submissions is that they were very clear and concise. Some people tried to be all over the place and tried to be everything to the award, but being very concise, being very structured in how they write the submission. I think it's very important to have references. Try not to look too much or sound too much like an academic, but I know that we are the experts in our fields, but it's always good to be able to reference the literature or best and promising practices in the submission, so that we will know that this is not something that you just made up out of the clear blue sky with no point of reference, no framework or anything to support or substantiate what you're writing. I also like storytelling. I like to see a narrative in the awards. Make me feel like I am a part of what you're doing, right? That was important. And that's what captured me in some of the writing. I'm like, oh my goodness, I need to do that. I need to talk to my team about that. That's very compelling for a judge. But then I had to step back and say, okay, wait a minute. I need to pace myself because there's so much. Some of the submissions were just too wordy, right? So whatever the guidelines say as far as word limits and things like that, please adhere to that. I even tell my students that the quantity of your work doesn't matter, but the quality of your work definitely does matter. I don't want to read a bunch of rhetoric. I want to read very concise and clear information. I think, of course, the PIEoneer Awards are about innovation. So being original, definitely original. And that doesn't mean because you're original, you don't have some framework to reference or something that you can reference. You can always tie that in to something that has happened and show how you are aligning with that or even superseding that. It really needs to capture the judge's attention that you have it together and that you have data. I'm glad that you all are having a data category, but it's also good to show in your submission proof of what you're doing and that it is working on your campus, or with another partner or through your collaboration. That's very important. I also think that sustainability, it should not be one and done, or this is just something we've tried and it worked and we want to get an award for it, and then that's it. You need to show sustainability and how it can possibly scale as well, that you could actually take this submission and do it in other places and with other partners. I think that's very important. Um, it was something else. Oh, the focus on outcomes is so important, right? So I want to see, as a judge, what were your outcomes, and let's focus on those outcomes and make sure that, again, it's not just I check this off the box, this is what I've done, so be it. This should be something that somebody else can pick up and model in their own at their own institution. So it's just so much, and I know that it can be overwhelming trying to write it or whatever, but I say dig in, take a step back, go back to it, let your team read it, go back. You have to just keep going back and forth until you really, really feel like this is the best submission that I could possibly write.
Yeah, I mean, absolutely fantastic advice. As people are saying in the chat here, I have been a judge myself, and also I'm involved in some of the early shortlisting sometimes. And for context for people, we select judges from all across the industry, all over the world, and they put a lot of their own time into reading all the submissions in certain categories, and then they independently score each part of the application, and they don't see each other's comments or anything like that, and then it aggregates the scores. So it's done in a very, very independent and fair way across a whole pool of expertise and perspectives. And as Claire's saying in the side here, that's really about, it could be big companies and big partnerships, or it could be tiny boutique or individual independent companies, or people even making a change, making an impact. Somebody said about not being able to afford to come to the actual ceremony itself. We have live streamed it in the past. We know that not everybody can get to the actual awards themselves, and we try and make it as inclusive as possible. I think the message here is about, it really is for anybody to enter. It is literally a universal award system. And yeah, we try and be absolutely as inclusive as possible. And I'm sure we'll be in touch to discuss some of these points. One of the things I picked up, Jewel, was about evidencing. A lot of people talk about the mission, the reason for innovation, or coming up with something that they're very proud of, and rightly so. But it's that outcomes, evidencing impact that really gets people up to the next level. And a lot of people, when I read the award submissions, they kind of skimp on that, or they say, look, it's too early to say. So I think producing as much evidence or backing up, even if it's testimonial evidence, as you said, is a really, really important point. Leanne, you've been involved in the language sector and the awards there, but also around gender equality and leadership awards. What are the sort of things that you look for from submissions like that?
Yeah, so they're pretty similar, to be honest, Nick. We're in the same situation where we have a broad range of judges that are very time pressured as well. So we really encourage people to think about how they word and structure their nomination. We do get some people who write one or two sentences and then get lots of people they know to recommend them as well with one or two sentences. And we try and give them some feedback and say you're better off. I mean, we run similar webinars to this before in the lead up to the awards, but to explain that you're better off with some really good quality, with one really good quality entry that sort of speaks to the kind of values and the achievements that we're looking for and the judges might be looking for, rather than having lots of one-liners. And I think it's important to connect yourself to the values of the organisation that are putting on the awards. So the pioneers Jewel mentioned are particularly about innovation. So you might be doing lots of things well as a person or an organisation, but if these awards are looking at for something innovative, that's sort of pushing the boundaries or developing something in a particular way, then have that in your mind all of the time. So with the Lead 50/50 ones, it's about leadership, but particularly in regards to gender equality or workplace diversity. So not just about how good you are or the success you've had as a leader, but how you're pushing on the door of gender equality or workplace equity and raising women into positions of leadership, that kind of thing. So don't lose track of what the judges and the organisation running the awards are looking for, would be my advice.
Yeah, I think sometimes it's difficult to judge what is innovation within your company. You know, what's new for you, what's made a huge difference, and what's innovation across the sector, and what stands out as a really fresh new innovation. Marcus, for you, I mean, you know, recruitment organizations, the world of kind of agents and support services is huge. And I've seen lots of big agencies enter, but really they just describe what they do. You know, they just giving their usual kind of description of their company. How do we take it to the next stage and say, you know, there's more to it here, or this year we will be particularly innovative because of something specific?
Yeah, thank you, Nick. So I think what we've approached, or what we've tried to do, how we've approached it has been well, certainly different based on kind of the prompt, but to really kind of dig into the student journey and what are the challenges faced when working with students. And so when it comes to an award ceremony, it's very easy to be self-promotional or even kind of self-celebratory. Look at us, look at the amazing work that we do. And I believe we again try to do it from an approach of, for example, one of the challenges that a student counseling organization like Blue Ivy would face is we'll get students that arrive to us last minute, and they won't have the time or really the research to become familiar with all of the different university brands. And so they're often wanting to go to kind of top of mind universities, whether or not they have kind of the profile for that school or even the budget. And so one of the challenges that we face as a counseling organization is how do you provide kind of the most effective guidance and really identify the kind of that best fit in the shortest amount of time possible. And so the ways that we do that as an organization evolve on a year-to-year basis. So again, kind of our approach of the entry is like, let's throw up a problem onto the wall and explain why that's a challenge in the industry, and then talk about how we as an organization, how we did it differently in this past year. And I think kind of with that approach, maybe it's a little bit more focused on process than results, and perhaps that's compelling. And I think likewise, with some challenges with the industry. And so, for example, I know one of the things that we've discussed in previous entries have been, when you work as a recruiter, you're working in partnership with either directly with universities or with recruitment providers that have a different economic structure and a different monetization structure than a counselor or an agent does. In other words, a university can only monetize a student's enrollment once they enroll, but ultimately a student journey doesn't begin a few months before they begin university. It begins several years before. And so that makes that part of the industry for us challenging. We're meant to be a recruitment partner, we're meant to be a true partner of universities and providers, but the economic structures of both organizations are different, and that creates tension. And so I think, again, we've tried to just be honest about some of these challenges and honest about kind of the ways that we've tried to approach those challenges with our partners and how we've tried to do things a little bit differently. And so there's just another example of us being really honest, throwing a problem on the wall, saying like, here's this challenge in the industry, we're working through it in this way, we think we've made progress.
Yeah, I mean, so true. Like keeping the student at the heart of it. I mean, that's you know, something we all share. But then what you're talking about there is innovation around common problems and being willing to share and explain how you've approached it. I'm just seeing here, there's quite a lot of comments coming on here. So are the awards only open for companies or industry, or can any college or university submit an entry? Absolutely. I think the thing we share is it's professionals in international education, and that's both across public sector and the private sector, across institutions, but across companies as well. And some of the best submissions are actually combined submissions. So maybe partnerships working together on a piece of innovation and having a dual submission. And I think those things are really, really quite powerful in showing what you talked about, the community and the kind of best things that come out of a community or a collaborative sense. And yeah, somebody else has asked, Miriam here has asked, does the topic or area have to do only with international students? By virtue of having a significant international student body, our institution has many services and areas that may not be international only. Can those qualify? Jewel, how do you feel about that? Is it for international students only, or is it for all students?
I think it would be for all students. For example, when we were considering applying for the PIE Awards a couple of years ago, I wanted to highlight the importance of collaborating with our domestic students. So our international students come to the university with a desire to acculturate. They want to understand domestic students, and the domestic students on campus want to understand the international students. So I always tell my staff, let's not just call them international students. They are students first, right? So we need to think about the other students in everything that we do, right? Now, we wouldn't invite domestic students to a conversation about immigration regulations, right? But if we were talking about cultural programming or things like that, we would want to involve our domestic students. And actually, our domestic students are part of our Global Ambassador program. So I would say it would be all students, even though the focus is on our international students. How can you exclude the domestic students? That would be an exclusive or discriminatory practice, in my opinion. So
yeah, I completely agree. And I think a lot of innovation is around technology, and in some ways technology is breaking down these barriers of geography, and we're having much more of a one approach to all students as opposed to international or just domestic. There's a little bit of chat happening now about categories and knowing which category to enter. I mean, this is quite tricky because sometimes when we're formulating the awards themselves, each year we review those categories and we have tweaked them each year, hence why we have this new data and insight category. And there has been this proliferation around digital innovation in recruitment, in learning, in lots of different areas. So sometimes we do understand that it's difficult to understand where you might submit. But I think you can explain that in the entry. And also, if you feel like it needs recategorizing, the judges are aware of that. So they might say, look, this might be more appropriate actually in this category here. So as part of the judges' briefing, they might suggest that this is more competitive in a different area. So that sometimes happens. I guess the overall one is Pioneer of the Year. This is the big one. I guess you've got to, this is probably not a catch-all, but more about you really feel like this is absolutely best in class innovation, right? Marcus, when are you going to go for this one to get the hat trick?
Well, when I feel I deserve it.
Yeah. So I mean, we've raced through half an hour here. I wonder if I could just go around you all and just ask you to basically encourage our audience to apply. We started this off with this feeling that it's not actually all about winning. So Leanne, I'm going to come to you first.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. I mean, we were absolutely over the moon to have won, but even to get shortlisted was fantastic. And when you walk into the lobby of the hotel in the room, you're surrounded by people who are there to network, to share their own achievements with you and to congratulate you. And it's just a fantastically supportive environment. And really, even if we hadn't have won, I really wholeheartedly recommend applying, getting involved, going along just for the evening, because we met up with old friends, but met lots of new people who will help you, ultimately there for business, advance your business, and you can learn loads from the people in the room and the things that you see on the screen that other people are doing. So definitely be involved, whether you're in it to win it or not. But if you are, good luck.
Marcus, you said it as well about being part of the community. Do you feel the same way?
Yeah, absolutely. And I can give several concrete examples. And so when I had the first ceremony participated was virtual, but the second was in London. And at the table we were seated at, right next to us was an innovator in virtual reality and virtual reality education programs for schools. At the moment, our organization was not doing anything in virtual reality. But throughout dinner, we were fascinated by the work that he was doing. This is Steve from Victory XR, and wrote him a couple weeks after the ceremony and became partners. And we've been collaborating for the last 2 years, and that's a connection that is thanks to the PIE. So it's definitely about the community. But also just as a final note, I think it's possibly worth addressing the elephant in the room with regards to writing an entry this year, which is ChatGPT. And I would say that if you're using ChatGPT, you're not doing it right. You're not thinking about what the purpose of this exercise is. I'm not against AI, and I think it can be a great writing partner. But I think if there's something that's kind of come through what Leanne and Joelle have both shared, it's really about being authentic. It's really about having your voice. For us, it's been, again, just as an internal exercise, pausing, reflecting, what are your thoughts? What are your reflections? And so sitting down and doing that pen to paper yourself and not just asking AI to drum up some corporate empty speak, I think is really important. So don't fall into the last minute, let me just use ChatGPT. Use it as a productive exercise for yourself first, and then use that as a vehicle to connect with others.
Well said. Yeah, well said, because I know people who do use AI for award submissions, and a lot of awards are just about pay a fee and then put the submission in. But what we're trying to show here is it's people like Jewel are meticulously reading these entries and looking for very personal insights and evidence, and so yeah, you can't really get AI to do that. It's very difficult to replicate that. Jewel, you were going to be joining us this year. We're back at the prestigious Guildhall, which is a royal venue in London. Yeah, people will be pleased. Yeah, very popular venue. So yeah, we're delighted you're going to aim to join us this year at the ceremony.
I'm excited. I am so excited. I'm actually bringing two of my best friends with me who've never been to London before. And I told them, I'm like, think about the Grammys or the Oscars or and they were like, what? I'm like, yes, this is happening in London. And so they said, well, we want to go. I said, well, you'll get to see what I do on a day-to-day basis. This is all about international higher education, because they follow everything that I do and they love the work that I do. And now they will get to see it in action by seeing actual winners of these awards and hearing what they're doing. So I am super excited about it.
Fantastic. Well, we look forward to welcoming you. Someone said, Iris is just saying here, testimonials and quotes, they play an important role. Absolutely. The more kind of testimonials you can put in there as evidence, especially if you haven't got statistics and things like that, if it's an early innovation. Yeah, perfect. Okay, so if anybody has more questions, please, you can get in touch with us on social media or through editorial@thepienews.com, and we'll be more than happy to answer your questions. I encourage everybody to apply, because really I've seen the very best of transformation through these awards. We love to hear these stories. We love to cover them. We love to hear about what's happening all over the world. And this is just a great platform for the great work that you do and can transform things for the future. It's just the beginning for a lot of the award winners. So thank you, everybody, for participating. I also know that ticket sales are open. So early bird tickets, there are tables of 12 available on early bird tickets as well. But other than that, you have until the 28th of March to submit your entry for the awards. And the awards will take place on the 13th of September in London's Guildhall. Okay. Thank you, everybody, and see you all soon.
Thank you all. Have a great day.
All right.
Bye, Marcus. Bye, Jill.
Bye.
Bye.